Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of It's Time We Talk. And I'll be honest, I'm not doing this episode in the best mood. It has recently been reported that the NCAA are planning on expanding the men's and women's basketball tournaments, and we've since seen that become a reality. The NCAA put out their own article and their own discussion about what's going to happen in the future with the NCAA tournament. And with this, it is seeing the expansion of the tournament from 64 teams, or 68, I should say, to 76 teams. And now, there have been a lot of different opinions. I would say a lot of the college basketball fans, a lot of the big time college basketball fans are not happy about this, and I would consider myself to be quite a big college basketball fan. Um, last year and the year before, I watched more regular season college basketball than I've ever watched in preparation for the NCAA tournament. I've found that it is a lot more entertaining to me than the NBA, and I like you have these guys who are working so hard to try to get to the NBA, and they're in a situation where it means so much to them, not because they're playing for a team, they're playing not only for themselves, but they're playing for the other players on the court with them, they're playing for their school, their culture. So I've always thought college basketball, for me, is more entertaining than the NBA. But seeing this expansion from 68 to 76 teams is rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. And I want to sort of go over what this means. This expansion to 76 teams from 68, how it'll work, and like I said, what we can expect, and why people are feeling this way. So, in 1985, the NCAA tournament expanded to 64 teams, including 16 teams on four different brackets, and the current model of how we see college basketball today. And this expansion, so we've also seen a smaller expansion to 68, where we had the first four. It would grant four teams, two at-large bids and two conference tournament or lower conference tournament victors. It would grant them access into the NCAA tournament. And I thought that was a pretty decent idea, try to get some more teams that maybe were on the brink of making the NCAA tournament. At least it was a lot better for me for the 16 seeds because they were able to get more. I don't want to say lower prestige, but smaller schools from lesser conferences and give them the experience of being in the NCAA tournament. It's been something that is financially beneficial to a lot of smaller teams. So I didn't mind that. Didn't mind that at all. And it's sort of what I grew up on, watching the NCAA tournament when I was a kid up until, now that I'm an adult. That's just what I've been used to. And seeing this expansion to 76 teams means that we now have more at-large bids, or teams who it'll mostly be teams who play for Power 4/Power 5 conferences now that the Pac-12 is back. More of those teams will be getting an opportunity to get into the NCAA tournament. And we saw this kind of issue last year. We always look at, when it comes to bracketology and it comes to what the bracket will look like, we look at the first four teams in, the last four teams out, and the teams that are on the bubble. And so those teams that are on the bubble that had a decent season, but may not have had a good enough season to make the NCAA tournament, didn't do well enough in their conference tournament. We saw them sort of, you know, we saw this debate of who deserves to get in, whose schedule was better, whose wins were better. It brought a lot of meaning to quad one, quad two, quad three, quad four wins. It meant, a team with a better record, but maybe not as many quad one or quad two wins would get in over a team that had a better record, but didn't have as good a record against quad one and quad two teams, if that makes sense. So, in their announcement, they did say, for the positives, they're trying to spin this in a way where it seems positive. More schools, more student athletes, more opportunity, this, that, the other. I mean, color me shocked. Of course they're going to try to spin this in a way that's positive. What it really means, in my view, is a lot more money because you're now having, what is it, 8 more games now? You're, excuse me, I might be totally wrong, but you're having more games in the opening round, and expand it. Essentially, this is just an expanded opening round. So more games in the opening round, more money, higher viewership, more eyes on the product, and the thing that I think not enough people are talking about, mostly because maybe they may not see it like this or they may not care, but it does most likely mean a death to the college basketball crown and the NIT. So the NIT has been around for a long time. It's been another postseason tournament for teams that were not able to make the NCAA tournament, sort of giving them meaningful basketball to play at the end of the season, and the potential for a financial bonus for teams that did well in the NIT. The college basketball crown was created 2 years ago, sort of as a way for these Power 5 schools that didn't, or Power 4 at the time, Power 4 schools who didn't make the NCAA tournament, giving them a pathway to play more postseason basketball, make more money than they would in the NIT, play in Vegas. They had a TV deal with Fox to be on Fox and Fox Sports 1. And it was an 8 or a 16 team tournament that was sort of created 2 years ago. And it seems like the NCAA have now seen that. And I wouldn't say that the college basketball crown has been insanely successful. I watched quite a bit of it in the first 2 years just because, like I said, I love college basketball and I love any excuse when I'm bored to watch it. But I also think, like I said, the NCAA saw whatever success the college basketball crown was getting and thought, you know what? We don't like having competition. We don't like having another postseason tournament that wants to, make a lot of money with a TV deal and brands and sponsors like that. Because the NIT has never really been a real comparison to the NCAA tournament. I mean, the NIT is established as sort of the little brother to the NCAA tournament. And not to say that the NIT is bad. I like the NIT. I like the idea of it. It features a lot more, I don't want to say lower conference, but it does feature some Power 5 teams, but it also features some non-Power 5 teams or Power 4 teams and gives them an opportunity. Whereas the college basketball crown is just Big East, Big 12, Big 10, SEC, Pac-12, things like that. So, yeah, I've always liked what the NIT does, giving them an opportunity. But the college basketball crown, it's going to be very tough for them to continue because it seems like the NCAA is trying to attract the teams that would agree to play in the college basketball crown and give them a pathway into the NCAA tournament. Now, what does this mean for the future? Because Obviously, there's some uproar, but it doesn't seem like the NCAA is in any rush to overturn this new decision. I don't think they will. I think this is something that we should expect for the foreseeable future. I've thought of some things, and I'm not sure if I believe all of them, but there are arguments that I've seen made and arguments that you could make now that the NCAA tournament is expanded. Conference tournaments gives a platform for teams. I look at a couple of years ago, North Carolina State, when I believe they finished below 500 or maybe right at 500. They went into the ACC tournament. They won 5 games in 5 days, won the NCAA tournament, excuse me, and won the ACC tournament. I'm sorry, won the ACC tournament, and were then automatic qualifiers for the NCAA tournament because they won their conference championship, which I think that's a great story. And I think that if you are mediocre during the regular season, you are going to have to step up and you are going to have to perform in order to get into the NCAA tournament. I don't think it should be oh, you're a big school with a big budget and you weren't good enough this year. Let's grant you a spot in the NCAA tournament. I don't think that's how it should be. I think that's unfair. And I liked that NC State had to work for it. They really had to do what they had to do. Play some of the best teams in the country, beat Duke in the championship. That was in the semifinal, and that was a huge occasion. And that almost happened with Ole Miss this year. They came in ranked 15th in the SEC tournament and made it all the way to the semifinals. And they didn't make the NCAA tournament, even though they were probably one of the schools in the best form going into March because of that success in the SEC tournament. But because they didn't win it, they performed terribly during the regular season. They were below 500, a bunch of quad 2 losses. So that made a lot of sense. Ole Miss did do a good job in the SEC tournament, but they didn't do good enough. When you perform mediocre, as I mentioned before, you're going to have to be outstanding if you want to make the NCAA tournament. This expanded format now gives maybe not teams like Ole Miss, but teams like Auburn last year who played in the NIT. There was a lot of discussion on social media as to whether Auburn should have gotten in to the NCAA tournament. I know Bruce Pearl, every time I turned on CBS, was complaining about how Auburn should have been one of the teams in there. But now, it gives there's less jeopardy. And I think it could make conference tournaments, I don't want to say completely obsolete, but less meaningful. Because if you're a team that's a little bit above 500 in the SEC, the ACC, or the Big East, there's an opportunity, or the Big Ten, there's an opportunity for you to still make the tournament, and you don't even have to play well in your conference. You don't even have to play that well in your conference tournament. Now, I could be wrong on that. That's just something that I wanted to bring up. Maybe that would be the case, but it could also place less value on the regular season. Because if you're able to I don't want to say sleepwalk your way through the regular season, but sort of not play incredibly well, do pretty well in your conference tournament, and then get in, I don't know, these are things that we have to consider. These are things that I think the NCAA has to consider. How are they going to weigh conference tournament success versus regular season success? Adding more teams means you have this situation where there are teams that can do very well in the regular season and absolutely sleepwalk through their conference tournament, or vice versa. And I don't know, adding more teams, call me old school. I don't even want to say old school. Just I think it was perfect the way it was. I think having this argument or discussion on which teams should get in and how to format the NCAA tournament, as in what teams should get in, how to weigh conference tournament and regular season success. I think they found a great formula. And I think that this expanded tournament is going to mess with that. But, like I said, a lot of changes that are made in sports nowadays, especially in professional and collegiate sports, are made for money. Right now we are less than 5 weeks away, and this is sort of we're less than 5 weeks away from the World Cup beginning. And one of the big things out of the World Cup, not only that it's being held in the United States, but also an expansion of teams. And you see the amount of people that are, the casuals who are excited, or the people who are from not just smaller nations, but nations that don't have a rich history of success in soccer. And now they're able to watch their team in the World Cup, which is good for them. I mean, but it also creates more uh, non-competitive games, and that's something different. But I'm just saying the reason that they're expanding the World Cup is not so that these smaller teams and these people from smaller countries, or countries that don't have as much success in soccer, so that they can be happy. It's not for that. It's to make more money. It's to have a better TV deal. It's to, put more butts in seats. So more engagement, more games equals more engagement. The casual fans who like when the NCAA tournament comes on once a year, or the World Cup that's every 4 years, and it's a huge, huge global thing. Now you have more eyes on it. You have more people watching. You have more views. And so it's why in a lot of sports there's this idea of expansion. Major League Baseball opted to expand the playoffs, to add more teams into the playoffs, into the wild card round. And that wasn't so that fans can watch their team in the playoffs if they're not as good as teams like the Dodgers or the Yankees. It's so that they can broadcast more games on national TV, things like that. So I think it's very important to see the real reasons for why this happens, because the NCAA will try to tell you that this is a move to include more schools and to uh, feature more student athletes. And while I am excited to be able to, you know, see more teams on a national level, sort of the possibility for an upset, even though if you check the past couple of years, upsets are at an all-time low in the NCAA tournament. Does this really help? I don't think so. I don't think this changes anything. I just think that it's all about money. It's all about money, and it's all about the success of the NCAA. It has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with your enjoyment. It has to do with the money they know that they can bring in, and the amount of people that they can bring into watching or going to the tournament. It means potentially higher ticket prices, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not incredibly happy about it, because if there was a better reason as to why this was happening, if I could see a better reason, something that would benefit us, the viewer. I mean, the only thing is, like I said, these betting companies are going to be not taking more money. There's going to be more people that are on betting sites, betting on the opening round games. It's just going to be more money coming in. So like I said, I'm not a huge fan of it. Like I said, I liked the format that the NCAA tournament was in. I liked the format that the MLB was in. I liked the format that the World Cup was in. I'm not a huge fan. I haven't been so far a huge fan of expansion in sports in most cases. But, anyways, let me know what you think. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking nonsense? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments. Yeah, so that's essentially my take, my opinion on what's going on with the NCAA tournament. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the very next episode. Be well.